Ethan Cole's hands were tied behind his back and the thick ropes dug into his wrists. He walked slowly up the wide steps toward the alien queen's throne, his boots echoing against the smooth stone floor. The hall was enormous, larger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. The walls glimmered with a strange silver light, and tall columns stretched toward the ceiling, where lights hovered in the air like tiny stars. The air was thick, almost heavy with the quiet of thousands of eyes staring at him. He had been captured 2 days ago on Aurelian, the planet known for its harsh deserts and violent storms. His team had come to scout the area, looking for any signs of alien life or resources. But they were discovered. Ethan remembered the sharp whistle of the alarms and the flash of alien weapons that forced his friends to scatter. He had tried to hide, but a patrol of alien guards had found him, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. He had fought, of course, but 1 against 20 was impossible. Now he stood alone in front of the queen who sat high on her throne, her silver armor shining like moonlight. She was taller than any human, her long, pale fingers resting lightly on the armrest. Her eyes were dark, deep pools that seemed to pierce his very soul. The moment Ethan stepped into her sight, the hall fell silent. Even the guards seemed to hold their breath. "Ethan Cole," the queen said. Her voice was soft but strong, like metal being shaped. "You are accused of espionage and defiance. Your crimes cannot go unpunished." Ethan looked at her calmly. There was no fear in his eyes, no tremble in his voice. He had trained for years for moments like this, not for death but for courage. He could feel the tension in the room. Every alien guard, every member of the council was watching him carefully, waiting for his reaction. Most humans would have fallen to their knees or pleaded for mercy. Ethan smiled instead. The smile was small, almost casual, but it spread across his face like sunlight breaking through clouds. The queen's eyes narrowed. She had seen humans before, but never one who faced death with a smile. Even her guards hesitated, unsure if they should obey the order. A murmur ran through the crowd. The council members whispered to each other, their voices low and nervous. "You smile at death?" the queen asked, her voice rising slightly. "Do you not feel fear?" Ethan shook his head. "Fear is for those who don't know themselves," he said. "I know who I am. I know what humans can do. You cannot scare me." The hall fell silent again, heavier than before. Some of the aliens shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. Humans were small, fragile creatures compared to them. Yet there was something in Ethan's voice, something in his calmness, that made them uneasy. The queen studied him carefully. She could feel something unusual, a spark she had not seen in centuries. "You are bold," she said slowly. "But boldness cannot save you." Ethan's smile did not fade. "No," he said. "But courage can change everything." A few council members gasped at his words. Courage from a human? They had always believed humans were weak, foolish, and easily broken. Yet here was one who stood tall, refusing to bow, refusing to beg. The queen rose from her throne, her armor clinking softly. The sound echoed through the hall. She moved closer to Ethan, each step measured and deliberate. The guards around him tightened their hold on his arms, ready to act if he tried anything. But Ethan did not move. He stood straight, his chin up, his eyes fixed on the queen. "You do not understand the power you face," she said, her voice cold again. "I am the queen of this empire. My word is law. One snap of my fingers and you will be nothing." Ethan's lips curved into a small grin. "Maybe," he said. "But even then you cannot take what I carry inside me. You cannot take human spirit, human hope. You can kill me, but you cannot break me." The queen paused. Her heart raced in a way she had not felt for decades. The hall, filled with aliens who had never questioned her rule, felt different. The air seemed to shift. She looked at him, searching for signs of deceit or weakness, but found none. The human was calm, unafraid almost. "Radiant, you will die," she said finally, her voice hard again. "You leave me no choice, guards." 2 massive alien warriors stepped forward, their armor glinting under the strange light. They held long, curved blades that glowed faintly. Ethan didn't flinch. He let them approach, his gaze never leaving the queen. As they reached him, he whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "You'll see soon enough." The warriors raised their weapons, but the queen held up her hand. "Stop," she commanded. "Why do you not kneel? Why do you not beg? Answer me." Ethan's smile widened slightly. "Because I have nothing to fear from you. I have fear only of losing hope, of giving up, of forgetting who I am." The queen's eyes widened. A strange feeling grew inside her, a mix of anger and awe. She had ruled for centuries. seen thousands of humans, yet none had ever spoken like this. There was a power in him, a strength she could feel, and it terrified her. The council whispered among themselves. Some leaned forward, curious, others leaned back, afraid. The guards tightened their grips on their weapons, unsure whether to obey the Queen's original command. The Queen herself stepped down from her throne, moving closer to Ethan. Every step she took seemed deliberate, almost hesitant. "Why do you smile at death, human?" she asked again, softer this time. Ethan looked up at her, his eyes steady. "Because death is not the end," he said simply. "It is only a moment. What matters is what you carry inside, what you do while you live. That is the real strength." For the first time in her life, the Queen felt uncertain. The words of the prophecy she had read as a child came rushing back to her mind, words she had dismissed as myth. They spoke of a human, a child of the lost star who would appear and change the fate of her empire. Could this be the one? The Queen looked at Ethan again. His calmness, his courage, his refusal to bow, it was unlike anything she had seen. The hall was still silent, the air heavy with tension. She realized something that no queen should ever realize easily. She was not entirely in control anymore. Ethan stood there, not a single muscle trembling, his eyes bright with determination. He was small, yes, compared to the towering aliens around him, but he was stronger than many of them in a way that was hard to measure. Not strength of body, but strength of spirit. The Queen's hand shook slightly as she lowered it. "Stop the execution," she ordered suddenly, her voice firm. The guards froze, unsure if they had heard correctly. Ethan blinked in surprise but did not move. "Explain yourself," the Queen said, her voice softer now, tinged with curiosity and caution. "Why do you not fear me? Why do you smile at death?" Ethan took a deep breath. "Because I know what humans can do," he said. "Because courage is stronger than fear. Because hope is stronger than tyranny. You cannot break me, not with words, not with weapons, not with fear." The Queen stared at him, her knees weak, her mind racing. She had never encountered anyone like this. Not in 1,000 years of ruling. Her empire had conquered countless worlds, defeated countless enemies, and yet this human made her question everything she knew. The council murmured nervously. The guards shifted their feet, and the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Ethan's calmness had turned the court upside down, had shaken the foundations of power itself. Finally, the Queen spoke, her voice steady but full of an emotion she had not felt in centuries. "Take him away, but do not harm him." Ethan nodded slightly, his smile never leaving his face. He was led away, not as a prisoner condemned to die, but as a human who had survived the impossible. And for the first time, the Queen felt something she had not felt in centuries. Fear, not for her life, but for her empire. She watched him disappear through the gates of the throne hall, his calm figure walking away, and she realized one undeniable truth. This human was not ordinary. He was a spark, a flame that could not be extinguished. And deep down, she knew that the empire would never be the same again. Even in chains, Ethan Cole had won the first battle, not with weapons, not with strength, but with the one thing humans carried that no alien could ever destroy: courage. Ethan Cole was led through long corridors of the alien palace. The walls were smooth and glowing, shining faintly in silver and blue. The air smelled sharp and clean, almost metallic. Everywhere he looked, there were symbols etched into the walls. Symbols he did not understand but could feel held power. Alien guards marched beside him, silent and alert. Each one was taller and stronger than any human soldier, yet none dared touch him. He had been taken to a private chamber, not to a cell. The Queen had ordered it, and the guards followed without question. Ethan wondered why. He had survived an impossible moment, yet she had spared his life. He did not know why, but he sensed that this was only the beginning of something much larger. The chamber was vast and empty, except for a table and 2 chairs. Light poured in from a high window, but it was not sunlight. It was light that seemed alive, moving across the room in soft waves. The Queen entered behind him, her presence filling the space like a storm. She did not sit immediately. She stood near the window, watching him carefully. "Sit," she said finally. Her voice was quiet but commanding. Ethan nodded and sat in the chair across from hers. He kept his hands folded on his lap. He felt no fear, only curiosity. "You survived," she said, her voice softening slightly. "When I gave the order, I expected you to beg, to plead for mercy. But you did not. You smiled, you defied me." Ethan looked at her calmly. I am not afraid, he said simply. I have no reason to fear you. I fear only giving up, only losing hope. The queen tilted her head, studying him. Most humans would have cried, begged, or screamed. Most would have fallen to their knees. You did none of these things. I am not most humans, Ethan said quietly. Her eyes narrowed, but there was no anger in them, only curiosity. Why? She asked. Why are you not afraid? Ethan leaned forward slightly. Because fear is a choice. I can choose to let it control me, or I can choose to stand tall. I choose to stand tall. The queen was silent for a long time. She had ruled for centuries, and she had never met anyone like this. Humans were small, fragile, and weak compared to her kind. They were easy to control, easy to frighten, easy to destroy, and yet here was one who seemed unbroken. Not only unbroken, but strong. You carry a strange strength, she said finally. A light inside you that refuses to be dimmed. Where does it come from? Ethan smiled faintly. It comes from all humans. From our desire to live, to survive, to make a difference. You can kill me, but you cannot take that away from all humans. You cannot kill hope. The queen rose and began to pace the chamber. Her steps were quiet, deliberate. She stopped in front of a large window, looking out over the alien city below. The buildings were tall and sharp, glowing softly in the light. She had ruled this world for decades, and yet she felt uneasy. She had always believed humans were nothing, but this one had made her question everything. You speak as if you are a hero, she said finally, but you are only one man, one weak human. How can you expect to change anything? Ethan leaned back in his chair. I don't expect to change everything alone, he said, but I can start something. One human can inspire another. One act of courage can lead to another. It spreads. That is how humans survive, how we grow stronger. The queen turned to face him fully. You speak of inspiration, and yet your life is in my hands. One order from me and you would be nothing. I know, Ethan said calmly, and I accept that. I do not fight for myself. I fight for what is right, and what is right cannot be destroyed by fear or power. The queen's hands trembled slightly. She did not understand this human, and that made her uneasy. Her entire life she had relied on power, fear, and strength to maintain her rule. And yet this human, smaller and weaker than a child in her world, had shaken her in ways she had never imagined. She moved closer to him, her eyes searching his face. You are unlike any human I have known, she said quietly. Your courage is remarkable, and yet it is dangerous. You could inspire rebellion. You could ignite a fire that even I cannot control. Ethan met her gaze steadily. I do not want to inspire rebellion, he said. I only want to survive and to show that humans are not weak. We are more than you think. More than anyone thinks. The queen walked away from him, moving to a large table covered in strange maps and holograms. She gestured toward them. Look at this, she said. These are the territories under my control. Every world, every city, every fleet obeys my command. And yet one human, one tiny human, can make me doubt the strength of all this. Ethan leaned forward, studying the maps. Power alone is not enough, he said. Strength is not only in armies or weapons. True strength is in courage and hope, in the will to act when others hesitate. That is something humans have in abundance. The queen frowned, her mind racing. She had never heard anyone speak this way. Not a human, not an alien, not even her most trusted advisors. And yet he spoke with truth, with clarity, with confidence. You are bold, she said slowly, and perhaps foolish. Most humans would have given up long ago. Most would have begged for mercy, but you are different. Why? Ethan's eyes met hers. Because I have to be. Humans survive because we refuse to give up. We fight even when it seems impossible. We hope even when all seems lost, and I refuse to bow to anyone who does not deserve it. The queen was silent. She did not know what to say. For the first time, she felt unsure of herself. She had ruled for centuries, and yet this one human made her feel vulnerable, small, uncertain. You speak of hope, she said finally, and yet your hope will not save you from what is coming. My empire does not forgive, and it does not forget. You are a prisoner. Your fate is sealed. Ethan leaned back in his chair, calm and steady. Then I will face it, he said. I will face whatever comes. I will not beg, I will not flee, I will not break. That is what humans do. The queen's lips pressed together. She studied him carefully. She had read prophecies as a child, stories of humans who would come and change the course of history. She had dismissed them as myth. And yet now she wondered, could this human be the one from the prophecy? Could he be the spark that would alter her empire forever? "You are not afraid," she said finally. "Not even now when your life is in my hands." "I am afraid," Ethan admitted quietly. "But I do not let fear control me. I let it teach me, guide me, make me stronger. That is how humans survive. That is how we endure." The queen walked back to her throne, her mind racing. She had spent centuries learning to command, to control, to dominate, and yet this human had made her question all of it. He had made her see that power alone was not enough. Strength alone was not enough. Courage, hope, and spirit could overcome even the greatest empire. She sat silently, thinking. Ethan had not asked for mercy. He had not pleaded. He had not begged. He had faced her with courage, with calm, with a smile. And that smile, it lingered in her mind. She could not shake it. "You will remain here," she said finally. "You will not be harmed, but you will not leave. I will learn more about you, about your people, about your world. Perhaps there is something to be gained from you after all." Ethan nodded. He remained calm, his hands still folded, his eyes steady. "I will stay," he said, "and I will show you what humans can do." The queen stood again, her armor glinting softly in the light. She looked at him carefully. "You are bold," she said, "and dangerous. But perhaps also necessary. We will see." Ethan smiled faintly. "I am ready," he said. For the first time in her life, the queen felt something she had not felt in centuries. Curiosity, hope, and even fear. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. This human was unlike any other, and the empire would never be the same. And so Ethan Cole remained in the alien palace, a prisoner in body but free in spirit. He had survived the impossible, faced death without fear, and begun a journey that would change not only his life but the fate of two worlds. The queen watched him carefully, her mind full of questions she could not answer, and somewhere deep inside she felt the first stirrings of something long forgotten: respect. For Ethan, the human who smiled at death, the real battle was only beginning. Ethan Cole stayed in the private chamber for days. He was not chained, but guards remained outside the door at all times. They were silent, watching, but they did not speak. He had enough food and water and a small cot to rest on. The room was strange and empty, yet it had a quiet peace that gave him space to think. He had survived the Queen's court, faced death and won in a way. But he knew this was only the beginning. Queen Lorana visited him often. She came alone, walking slowly across the glowing floor, her silver armor reflecting the soft light of the chamber. She would sit across from him at the small table and speak quietly, asking questions, testing him. "Tell me about your world," she said one morning. Her voice was calm but curious. "Your home planet, Earth, I want to understand why humans are so unbroken." Ethan leaned back in his chair, looking at her carefully. "Earth is not perfect," he said. "We have war, famine, disease. We have mistakes and failures. But we survive. We rebuild. We try again. That is what makes us strong." The Queen nodded slowly as if considering his words. "And yet you are alone here. One human against an empire. You must be afraid." "I am not afraid," Ethan said simply, "because even alone I carry humanity inside me. I carry hope. That is stronger than fear. That is stronger than weapons or armies." Lorana studied him, her dark eyes searching his face. She had seen countless beings across her empire, some strong, some cunning, some cruel. None had moved her like this human. His calmness, his courage, his refusal to bow, it was remarkable. "You speak of hope," she said, "and yet hope alone cannot stop an army, a fleet, or my rule. How can you expect to survive?" Ethan leaned forward slightly, his voice steady. "I survive not because of hope alone, but because of action. Humans act when others hesitate. We fight when others run. We think, plan, and take risks. We survive because we refuse to give up, no matter the odds." The Queen tilted her head. "You are brave, I will give you that. But bravery without wisdom can lead to death." "I know," Ethan said, "but courage without fear is not foolishness. It is the only way to move forward when the world is against you." Lorana was silent for a long time. She had ruled for centuries, and she had never met anyone like Ethan Cole. He was small, fragile, and alone, yet he radiated strength. He had survived fear and defiance in a way that made her uneasy. And she did not like feeling uneasy. You are bold, she said finally, and perhaps dangerous. You could inspire your people. You could ignite rebellion. Do you know what that could mean? Ethan shook his head. I do not want to inspire rebellion, he said. I want to survive. I want to show that humans are strong, that we do not bow to tyranny. That is enough for me. Lorana rose and walked to the window, looking out over her city. The buildings glowed softly in the alien light, sharp and beautiful, filled with life. She had ruled this world for decades, yet she felt uneasy. She had always believed humans were weak, easy to control, easy to destroy, and yet here was one who had made her question everything. Your words are strange, she said finally. I have never heard anything like this. Humans are supposed to fear us, to beg for mercy. And yet you do neither. Why? Because fear is a choice, Ethan said quietly. And I choose not to let it control me. I choose to stand tall, to survive, to fight for what is right. That is what humans do. That is what I do. The Queen's eyes narrowed. She had spent her life learning to command, to control, to dominate. And yet this human had made her question everything. She had never felt so unsure of herself, so uncertain of what would come next. You speak of courage, she said softly, and yet your courage could get you killed. My empire does not forgive mistakes. You're in my hands and I can end your life with a thought. Ethan smiled faintly. I know, he said, and I accept that. But courage is not about survival alone. It is about standing for what is right, even if the cost is your life. Lorana turned away from him, her mind racing. She had ruled for centuries, and yet this one human had shaken her in ways she did not understand. His words, his calmness, his smile, it was all foreign to her. And yet it was powerful. You are not afraid, she said finally. Even now, when your life is mine to take. I am afraid, Ethan admitted quietly. But fear does not control me. I use it to grow stronger, to stay aware, to keep moving forward. That is how humans survive. The Queen was silent. She had never heard anything like this. He spoke with truth, with clarity, with a strength that could not be measured. She did not know if she should be angry or impressed. You are different, she said finally. Unlike any human I have known. Your courage is remarkable, and yet it is dangerous. You could change everything. Ethan leaned back in his chair, calm and steady. I do not want to change everything, he said. I only want to survive and to show what humans can do. That is enough. The Queen watched him carefully, thinking. She had read prophecies as a child, stories of humans who would come and alter the fate of her empire. She had dismissed them as myths. But now, she wondered, could this human be the one? Could he be the spark that would ignite change? You are not ordinary, she said finally. Your courage, your hope, your spirit, they are unlike anything I have seen. But strength alone will not save you. You must learn wisdom. I understand, Ethan said quietly. And I will. I learn fast. I observe, I listen, I adapt. That is how humans survive. The Queen studied him for a long time. She had faced many enemies, fought many wars, and conquered countless worlds. And yet this small human had made her question her own power, her own control. He was a puzzle she could not solve, a spark she could not ignore. You will remain here, she said finally. You will not be harmed, but you will not leave. I will learn from you, and perhaps you will learn from me. That is the only way forward, Ethan nodded. He remained calm, his eyes steady. I will stay, he said, and I will show you what humans are capable of. The Queen turned away, walking slowly to the window. She looked out over her city, thinking. Ethan Cole was more than a prisoner. He was a challenge, a puzzle, a force she could not ignore. And somewhere deep inside she felt something she had not felt in centuries. Respect. For Ethan, the human who smiled at death, the real journey had only just begun. He had survived the court, faced the Queen, and begun a path that would change not only his life but the fate of two worlds. Days passed, and the Queen continued to visit him. She asked him questions about humans, about Earth, about courage and hope. Ethan answered honestly, speaking of oceans, mountains, storms, and survival. He spoke of mistakes, losses, and failures. He spoke of courage in the face of fear and hope in the face of despair. With each visit, the Queen's curiosity grew. She listened, she questioned, she learned. She began to understand the power humans carried, not in weapons, not in armies, but in spirit. And with each visit, Ethan's calmness, his courage, and his hope made her question everything she had known. One evening, she stood near his chair, looking down at him. You have survived fear, she said. You have faced death without flinching. How is it possible? Ethan smiled faintly. Because humans do not give up, he said. We fight even when the odds are against us. We hope even when all seems lost. That is our strength. That is why we survive. The queen was silent. She had ruled for centuries, and yet this one human had shown her a truth she had forgotten. Power alone was not enough. Courage, hope, and spirit were stronger than armies, stronger than weapons, stronger than fear itself. You are unlike any human I have known, she said finally. And yet, I feel something for you, respect, perhaps even admiration. But it is dangerous. You could change everything. I do not wish to change everything, Ethan said softly. I only wish to survive and to show you what humans are capable of. The queen looked at him long and hard. She had ruled, she had conquered, she had commanded, and yet she felt a strange stirring inside her, a feeling she had not felt in centuries. Hope. Ethan Cole, the human who smiled at death, had survived once more. And the empire, the queen, and the world around him would never be the same. Ethan Cole remained in the private chamber for many more days. The queen had not ordered his execution, but he knew he was still a prisoner. Guards watched him from outside the door, silent and alert, their armor glinting under the soft lights. They had not touched him, and he had not tried to escape. He had learned quickly that this was not just about freedom. It was about survival, about understanding the strange world he had been thrown into. The alien queen, Lyrana, visited him daily. She no longer came only to question him. Now she observed him, watching how he moved, how he ate, how he slept. Sometimes she brought gifts of books or maps, sometimes tools of alien science. Ethan studied them carefully, learning what he could. He understood quickly that knowledge was as important as strength, and he intended to use both to survive. One day the queen entered the chamber with an unusual tension in her steps. Her silver armor reflected the glowing light, but there was no elegance in her movement. She was worried. Something had happened outside the palace walls, and her empire was in danger. Ethan Cole, she said, her voice low and serious. There is trouble. A rival warlord, Vaynar, has raised an army on the eastern borders. He intends to challenge my rule and take control of key systems. Ethan looked at her calmly. How many troops does he have? He asked. Thousands, she said, better armed than many of my own soldiers. He has fleets ready to strike, cities prepared for rebellion. He will not hesitate to kill anyone who stands in his way, including my people. Ethan leaned back in his chair, thinking. And what do you want me to do? The queen studied him carefully. She had never asked a human for advice before, and it felt strange to do so. You have seen humans fight, survive, and adapt, she said. I need your counsel. How can we defend the empire from this threat? Ethan considered her question. He had never led an army, but he had studied human strategy and history. Humans had survived disasters, wars, and tyrants because they adapted quickly, acted decisively, and inspired others to follow them. He spoke clearly, outlining strategies that combined defense, intelligence, and courage. You must strike not only with armies, he said. You must inspire loyalty. Your people must believe in you, trust you, and fight for what is right. Strength alone is not enough. Courage and hope are what make an army unbreakable. The queen listened carefully, noting every word. She had ruled with power for centuries, believing fear was the greatest motivator. But she began to understand that this human might be right. Fear could only control so much. Courage and hope could move mountains. What if your plans fail? She asked quietly. Then we learn, adapt, and fight again, Ethan said. Humans never give up. Even when everything seems lost, we find a way to survive. That is how we endure. The queen studied him for a long moment, her mind racing. She had never met anyone like Ethan Cole. His calmness, his courage, his refusal to bow or beg. It was unlike anything she had ever encountered. And yet she felt a strange trust in him, a feeling she had not experienced in centuries. Very well, she said finally. I will trust your counsel. But this will not be easy. My people expect orders, not advice from a human. Ethan nodded. Then show them leadership. Show them courage. They will follow you if they see strength, not just in armies, but in spirit. The queen left the chamber, and Ethan spent the day preparing for what was to come. He studied the maps she had given him, memorized the positions of cities and fleets, and considered every possible strategy. He knew this would be dangerous. Failure meant not just death for him, but devastation for the empire. But he also knew humans were capable of the impossible, and he intended to prove it. The next morning the Queen summoned the council. Ethan was brought with her, standing quietly behind her as she spoke. The council members were shocked to see a human at the throne hall standing beside their queen. Some whispered nervously. Others glared at him, seeing a threat in his calm presence. "Vanar rises against us," the Queen announced. "I have sought counsel from Ethan Cole, a human who has shown extraordinary courage and insight. He will advise us on strategy." Murmurs filled the hall. A human advising the Queen? It was unheard of. Yet the Queen's authority was unquestioned. When she gave her word, the council listened. They could not ignore her, even if they feared the human beside her. Ethan stepped forward, speaking calmly and clearly. "We must act quickly," he said. "Vanar will strike at the borders, but we can anticipate his moves. Divide your forces wisely. Place strong defenses where they expect weakness. Use intelligence to predict his attacks, and most importantly, inspire your people. If they fight for hope rather than fear, they will not break." The council was stunned. His words were simple, yet they carried power. He spoke not as a soldier or a general, but as someone who understood courage and survival. Slowly, the council began to nod, realizing the wisdom in his advice. The Queen turned to him. "Lead us in planning," she commanded. "We will follow your strategy." Ethan worked with the Queen and the council for hours, plotting defenses, allocating fleets, and coordinating armies. He used maps, markers, and holograms to show where the enemy might strike and how they could respond. The aliens were surprised at how quickly he adapted, how clearly he thought, and how confidently he spoke. When the plans were complete, the Queen summoned the armies. Soldiers and officers from across the Empire gathered, their faces serious and tense. The Queen stood before them, Ethan beside her, and addressed the crowd. "Vanar rises against us," she said. "He seeks to destroy our cities, our fleets, and our people. But we will not bow. We will not break. Today we fight for our empire, and we fight for hope." Ethan stepped forward and spoke to the soldiers. "Fear is natural," he said. "But fear cannot control you. Courage and hope will guide you. Stand together, trust each other, and fight not just with weapons, but with spirit. Humans survive impossible odds every day. You can do the same." The soldiers listened in silence, and then slowly, determination spread across their faces. They began to see not just a human, but a symbol of courage. Even the Queen felt a strange pride in the way he spoke, a recognition of the power humans carried in their hearts. The next morning, the battle began. Vanar's armies moved swiftly, attacking the borders with precision and strength. But the defenses Ethan had helped organize were prepared. Soldiers fought with courage, fleets intercepted enemy forces, and the Empire held its ground. Ethan moved through the battlefield, observing, advising, and inspiring. He spoke to officers, gave directions, and reminded soldiers to trust in themselves and each other. His calm presence spread through the ranks, and even in the heat of battle, humans and aliens alike felt stronger, braver, and more determined. The Queen watched from the central command tower, her eyes following Ethan as he moved among the troops. She had expected fear, chaos, and panic. Instead, she saw courage, organization, and determination. And she realized that this human had changed everything. Hours passed, and the battle raged on. Vanar's forces were strong, but they were unprepared for the unity and courage of the Empire's soldiers. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Enemy fleets were repelled, cities were defended, and the soldiers fought with unwavering spirit. At one point, Vanar himself appeared on the battlefield, commanding his forces. The Queen's armies faltered for a moment, but Ethan stepped forward, speaking to the soldiers with calm authority. "Do not fear him," he said. "He is strong, yes, but strength without courage is weak. Stand together. Fight with hope. Victory is ours if we refuse to give up." The soldiers roared in response, their fear replaced with determination. They pressed forward, repelling Vanar's forces and forcing him to retreat. The battle ended with the Empire victorious, and the soldiers celebrated their hard-earned success. The Queen descended to the battlefield, standing beside Ethan as the troops cheered. She looked at him with new eyes, respect, awe, and even gratitude. "You have done more than survive," she said quietly. "You have changed the outcome of this battle. You have shown my empire what courage and hope can do." Ethan smiled faintly. "I only did what humans do every day," he said. "We survive, we fight, and we hope. That is our strength." The Queen knelt slightly in respect, a gesture unheard of in her empire. She had faced many enemies, conquered many worlds, and commanded countless armies. And yet, she had never met anyone who had made her feel such deep respect and awe. Ethan Cole, the human who had smiled at death, had not only survived, but had inspired victory. The Empire, the Queen, and the soldiers had seen the power of courage, hope, and spirit, and they would never forget it. The battle with Vanar had ended, but the air in the Empire was not calm. The cities were safe, the fleets had returned, and the people celebrated their victory. Yet Queen Lorana felt a strange unrest. Something had changed inside her, something she could not ignore. She had ruled for centuries, relying on power, fear, and control. But now she saw clearly the power of courage, hope, and spirit. And that power had come from a human, Ethan Cole. Ethan remained at the palace, walking freely through the halls now, no longer treated like a prisoner. The Queen had given him that freedom, not out of trust alone, but out of recognition. He had survived death, faced armies, and inspired an empire. And still he was calm. Still, and collected, as if nothing could shake him. The Queen called him to her chambers one evening. The room was quiet, lit by the soft glow of floating lights. She stood by the window, looking out over the city. Ethan approached, his steps quiet on the smooth floor. "You have changed many things," she said finally, her voice calm but firm. "You have shown my people courage. You have shown me a way I had forgotten existed. But there is more to do. The Empire still holds fear as its tool, and fear is a weak foundation." Ethan nodded slowly. "Humans survive because we hope, not because we fear. Power built on fear can crumble. Power built on courage, on spirit, lasts longer and stronger." The Queen looked at him carefully. She had spent her life ruling through strength and fear. She had believed those tools were enough to maintain order and obedience. And yet, this small human, fragile in appearance, had shown her a truth she could not deny. "Do you understand?" she said quietly. "That if I follow your counsel fully, I risk losing control?" "I do," Ethan said. "But true leaders do not need control. They need trust, respect, and inspiration. If your people believe in you, they will follow you because they want to, not because they are afraid." The Queen was silent, thinking deeply. She had never spoken to a human like this before. She had never considered such ideas, and yet they made sense. Ethan had survived fear, inspired courage, and changed the outcome of an impossible battle. His words carried weight, and she could not ignore them. "Very well," she said finally. "We will try your way. But first, you must prove yourself once more. There is an enemy still within the Empire, one who wishes to use fear to rise against me. He seeks to take advantage of the unrest after the battle. If you succeed, I will recognize you not as a human prisoner, but as a leader, an ally, and a protector of this empire." Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly, his calm expression unwavering. "I am ready," he said. The Queen gave him maps, reports, and intelligence about the internal threat. The enemy was clever, moving in shadows, using spies and saboteurs. Ethan studied everything carefully, forming plans and strategies. He spoke with the Queen and the Council, guiding them on how to anticipate attacks, protect the people, and inspire loyalty rather than fear. "Fear is easy," he said during one council meeting, "but courage is stronger. Teach your people that they matter, that they are part of something greater, and they will fight not because they must, but because they want to." The council was hesitant at first. Many had never considered hope as a tool of power. But slowly, as Ethan spoke, they began to understand. His words were simple, clear, and powerful. They carried truth and confidence, and even the Queen's advisors, who had doubted him before, began to trust his judgment. The first operation came at night. Ethan led a small team of elite soldiers, moving through the city to stop saboteurs before they could strike. He coordinated silently, speaking quietly but clearly, directing each soldier with precision. They moved quickly, striking with accuracy and avoiding unnecessary risk. By dawn, the threat had been neutralized. The saboteurs were captured, and the citizens who had been endangered were safe. The soldiers returned, exhausted but proud, their spirits lifted not just by the victory but by Ethan's calm leadership. The Queen watched him from her chamber as he returned. She felt a mixture of awe, respect, and something unfamiliar: gratitude. She had ruled for centuries, and yet this human, smaller and weaker in body than most of her soldiers, had shown her the meaning of true courage and leadership. "You have done more than I expected," she said softly, as Ethan approached. "You have saved lives, inspired loyalty, and changed how I see this empire. You are not just a human, you are extraordinary. Ethan nodded, remaining calm. I only do what humans do, he said. We survive. We fight. We hope. That is enough to make a difference. The Queen stepped closer, her gaze steady. You have earned a place here, Ethan Cole. Not as a prisoner, not as an advisor, but as a protector of this empire. From this day, you are recognized as one who stands with me, not against me. You carry a responsibility now, not just for yourself, but for my people. Ethan bowed slightly, a sign of respect. I will do my best, he said. I will protect those who cannot protect themselves, and I will guide those who need courage. That is my purpose. The Queen extended her hand, a gesture of trust and recognition. Ethan took it, and in that moment, a bond was formed, not between ruler and servant, not between human and alien, but between two leaders united by respect, trust, and a shared understanding of courage. In the days that followed, the empire began to change. Soldiers trained differently, focusing not just on strength but on courage. Citizens were encouraged to act with hope, to protect each other and to take responsibility for their communities. Fear no longer ruled the empire. Inspiration and loyalty became the new foundation. Ethan moved among the people freely, speaking to them, listening to them, and guiding them. His calm presence, his courage, and his simple words carried far more power than any weapon. Slowly, the citizens began to see the truth in what he said. Strength alone is not enough. Spirit, hope, and courage can overcome even the greatest fear. The Queen observed all of this, learning from Ethan even as she ruled. She had always believed that power was control, that fear kept order, but she had seen firsthand how courage and hope could inspire far more than fear ever could. She had ruled empires, fought wars, and commanded loyalty for centuries, and yet she had learned a lesson she would never forget. Sometimes, the smallest, most fragile being can teach the greatest lesson of all. One evening, the Queen summoned Ethan to stand before her in the throne hall. The room was filled with soldiers, council members, and citizens who had come to witness the moment. Ethan stood calmly, his hands folded, his eyes steady. You have done what no human before you could, the Queen said, her voice clear and strong. You have faced death without fear. You have inspired courage in my people. You have guided me to see a truth I had forgotten, and for this I honor you. The crowd was silent, watching closely as the Queen stepped down from her throne. She knelt before Ethan, a gesture that had never been seen in her empire. Ethan's eyes widened slightly, but he remained calm, understanding the significance of the moment. You have shown me the strength of humans, she said quietly, and for that I kneel not in submission but in respect. You have reminded me what it means to lead with courage and hope. You have reminded me what it means to inspire, rather than to rule with fear. Ethan looked at her, his calm expression softening. I did not do this alone, he said. The people, the soldiers, even you, they all chose courage. I only helped them see it. Humans survive together. We fight together. We hope together. That is why we endure. The Queen rose slowly, her eyes never leaving his. From this day forward, you are no longer my prisoner, she said. You are my ally, my protector, and a symbol of courage for this empire. You carry a responsibility not just for survival, but for hope, and I trust you to fulfill it. Ethan nodded. He felt a deep sense of purpose, a calm strength that filled him. He had survived impossible odds, faced death with a smile, and now stood recognized not just as a human, but as a leader, a protector, and a symbol of hope. In the weeks and months that followed, the empire changed forever. Soldiers trained with courage, citizens acted with hope, and the Queen ruled not with fear but with inspiration. Ethan Cole remained by her side, guiding, teaching, and protecting. His presence reminded everyone that strength alone is not enough. Courage, spirit, and hope can change worlds, and so the human who had smiled at death became a legend in the empire. His calm courage, his steady spirit, and his unshakable hope had transformed not just one life, but an entire civilization. The Queen, once proud and unyielding, had learned a lesson she would never forget. The smallest spark, the quietest courage can ignite a fire that changes everything. Ethan Cole, the human who faced death with a smile, had not only survived, he had changed the course of history. The empire would never be the same.